So they snaked the last time, so they got it going. As I said, but we probably have to do. There might be some roots growing in. We have to, do something in the near future, and then they're waiting for permits or something from the city. I don't know. And then it's there. I got to blame me. I push. I thought I had more time.
When was 10 o'clock?
Last night.
So you moved to someone else.
Yeah, I slept there last night. I'll say I had to watch Negovas. I had to go to the bathroom here. It's like the cat flush toilet there. All right.
Very important stuff is now on the video.
No, is it on? Yeah, that was recording. Maybe was I still on mute? All right. So let's go with the Mishnah. There's a legendary line today in today's Gemara. You guys will be able to figure it out. We'll see. Let's see. Mishnah says, bottom Mishnah, today's Daf Kuf Aleph and Kuf Beis. So we actually left off on Kuf and Beis, the bottom Mishnah. So a person goes ahead, his trees aren't so good. So he says, I'm not really producing much olives or much oil. I'm just going to go ahead and sell them for wood. But they still have a little bit of olives left, and it produces, however, less than a revis of an entire saw, which is a small amount. That belongs to the person who owns the zaysim. In other words, the guy who bought the trees also gets the little bit of oil that comes with it. However, also revis the saw. If there was more oil, let's say there was more than a revis of a lug per saw. So one says that was it's my trees. I bought the trees, and therefore my tree producer, it's mine. The other says no, grew on my land, therefore it's mine. Yachloku, they divide it, right? There's not a case of sumchos yachloku where like in Bachlokas. Rather, everyone says they go ahead and split it. Case number 2, which will be discussed. If let's say field number 1, right, Ruvain has a olive tree, and it was washed away. It was on the banks and then washed away by the river, and then all of a sudden it gets deposited. And Shimon's, I say Ruvain or Shimon? What did I say first? I said Ruvain, right? Ruvain had a field, and then it washed off from his field. The river swept it up, and now it's in the field of Shimon. One guy says, "Hey, it was my olive tree." It says, "Reuben, my olive trees that grew over there. Therefore, the produce is mine." No, it deposited on my land, and then it started to grow on my land, and now my land produced it. Therefore, it should be mine. They go ahead and divide it. Let's see the Gemara. Hey, Chidami, what's the case of the first case when one goes ahead and sells the olives? So if he goes ahead and cut it off right away, get your stuff out of here, and he doesn't, he should have got his stuff out of there. He didn't. So therefore, he wanted to use the land. So therefore, the land is producing. Therefore, he should be the owner of the land should be able to take it. And if he says, hey, whenever you want to go ahead, remove the trees, I don't care, do it. Afilu revius nami labal zaysim. Even if it was more than revius, because the guy shows, okay, you can leave it there as long as you want by him telling you take whatever you want. And therefore, even if it reduces more, the guy doesn't have use for his own land, and therefore it should belong to the guy who bought the wood. So the answer is he just says stum. He doesn't indicate whether it's now or never, or forever to go ahead and remove it. He just says he sold it to him, and that was it. So pakas revis. If it's less than revis, then like kapti and she, then people aren't makbid, and therefore it will go to the buyer. However, once there's revis, then kapti and she, then it is a larger amount, and therefore the owner of the field would take issue. And then Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi revis shaman, and that which we say that he pays him. I guess the revis that they split, Shamro, that's chutz, so that's it has to be a net profit, right, of revis after the expenses. Fine, top of the page on Kuf Aleph, Amud Aleph, this is yesterday's daf. Shotaf nar zaysav. If the tree was washed away by the river, right, the olive trees. Now, we're only talking about a case of when they were uprooted with the clumps of dirt. In other words, therefore, it's still considered to be like part of its original growth, with achar shalosh, and after, right, 3 years.
So they actually bought the whole thing belongs to the field.
Well, he can go ahead and collect it because he wasn't misaish, because he can see it, right? In other words, he knows where it is. He just didn't go ahead and collect it yet, right? So it brushes there. Yes. So he knows where it is. So it's not like it's something without simano. So if it's lo shana, then when do they divide it? Only after 3 years. Aval b'sech shalosh. But let's say it's in the first 3 years, right? So now the first 3 years, the guy has it as field. So hakol shel balazason, the owner of the orchards, right, could go ahead and say to them, yeah, nothing b'sech shalosh mihavi achalta. Right? If you would have grown it for the last 3 years, you wouldn't have been eating anything. You wouldn't have been allowed to because of Orla. All right. But since they're my trees, and now since the clumps of dirt went with it, and therefore it already has its it got credit for for years of Orla, right? When it was previously on Ruvain's land. So therefore he's saying the first 3 years should all belong to me, right? So when I say, so no, he going to respond. He said, right? No. Well, if I would have, okay, you're making a claim, but if I would have planted something, okay, but after 3 years, I would have gotten all of it. Now, at least I should go ahead and, since I'm going to have to divide that, I'm also going to go ahead and divide the first 3 years. So therefore, you can counterclaim. So, rather say like this. We're only talking about the divided. In other words, and now it starts to go through the first 3 years. But if it's after 3 years, and then it starts to grow over there, Hakol the Balakarka, everything goes to the guy of the Balakarka, Demarle, right? If I would have, planted it, and after 3 years, I would be eating the entire thing. So too now I'm going to go ahead and take it for I'm going to eat the whole thing. But let the guy whose tree it was, let him say, if you would have planted during 3 years, you wouldn't have eaten anything. So now you at least got half of it. All right. All right. So he said, you would have been able to go at least give me half of it now because you were able to go ahead and have half of it earlier. So our answer no, Mishum Damarle, Iana Nati, Havi Katina Vazarina Tachta Silka Vayarkas. So it says, no, if I would, the first 3 years would not have been a loss. I would have been able to go ahead and plant because they're small saplings, right? It would have been their first years. They would have had to go ahead and observe Orla because there's no Orla from before. I would have planted small saplings, which have lots of sunlight, and I could have grown other things in there. I could have grown other things, and I could have got the benefit of the land. But now that your large trees were in there, therefore, I should get half of those because you're using my land I would have used otherwise. So right now they got to divide it. So let's say the guy wants to take it out. So let's see what's going on. So Amar Hala Zaysav and Inaitel. Let's say the guy says, you know what? Excuse me, Zaysia and Inaitel. I'm going to go ahead and take out my olives. That's it. They got deposited in your land and they got planted there, right? What are the chances? But it happens. So Inaitel. I'm going to go ahead and take it away. Anywhere in Kuf Aleph and Aleph, maybe a third of the way down. Ein Shaymin Lo. We do not listen to them. You're not allowed to go ahead and remove it. So my time, what's the reason? Because of the settlement of Eretz Yisrael, if you go ahead and tear it out, then you're like unsettling the land of Israel. And I'm Rabbi Yirmiyah, right? Because of this is why we need your teachings. I wouldn't have realized that. So Tanan Haas and Rabbi Yehuda, so one who goes ahead is Mekabel a field from a Nachri. I will say so now. There's Kablanis. Kablanis is basically like almost like a sharecropper, right? A guy says, you know what, it's your land. We'll go 50-50. And you just sit at home or go to Florida, read the paper, and I'll go ahead and I'll work the land.
He's got a contract. Wait, it says it was his land. It was his.
Well, let's see. Well, we have to understand what these expressions mean. We don't know where the Gemara's yeah. So let's see. We're gonna see what it means. 1 second.
He's a contractor.
He is right. Well, he's kablanus. He pays per share. He pays percentage wise. So now, in this case, he makabel sedei, which we're going to have to go ahead and define what that means, right? As Eddie noted, and mina nachri from a guy. So meiser. So he takes the entire meiser. In other words, he takes the entire meiser of the entire field. And after that, but nice and low. And then after that, he gives them 50-50. So let's say, right, it was 50-50. It produces 1,000. So each one gets 500. Or each one gets 100. Let's do it easier, right? So each one gets, so it's 50-50. But the guy has to give Meiser before. So let's say the Meiser Rishon, Meiser Sheni, right? And then Shuma. So it's 10 and then 10 or 9, whatever. So let's say it's another 22, right? Because including Truma, right? So there's 22. So he gives the other guy 50, and he gave 22, and he only's got 38 for himself, right? No, excuse me, 28, right? 28 for himself, right? So, so Savura, you got the thought to say my of. So now what does the stay of? It just means Eretz Yisrael, right? That's what it means Eretz Yisrael. My car stay of. Why is it called stay of? Which part?
Your house.
Oh, you heard?
House by the country.
Yeah, still waiting. All right. So so why say why is it say Sada Avram means of Yaakov? Right? It means who's the Avos? What is his Avos? The forefathers, Avram means of Yaakov. It's a cute word, right? Cute name for Eretz Yisrael. Like Savar and Kilim Nach Eretz Yisrael Afkim Miyad Meiser. And the ownership by Nachri. Oh, I'm okay for now, thank you. So ownership by Nachri does not.
You make coffee?
Huh?
You have no water in the house and make coffee?
So
Machine?
there's still water in the machine. So I was able to
urn?
go, yeah, not in the urn, but like one of those
Regular.
there's an espresso machine, what are those called?
Yeah.
Little cups that you put in. Yeah, so you put water in before, so there's already. I'm like, huh, take it. So he said, "Ein kila nachrit salaf give me ad ma'aser," right? So he says, and now there's the land, even though it was a Nachri's land, right? That's what he understood it. Nevertheless, it doesn't remove the ability to, it doesn't or remove the obligation to give Meiser. Meiser is supposed to be given for the land, right? So his ownership is not really, therefore he has to give Meiser the entire thing. And a Makabel, a person who's doing something like he's doing kablanas, right? And now he's like a sharecropper. It's just like someone who's leasing the land. Just like a person who's leasing, he's responsible to go ahead and pay all the meiser, and then it doesn't matter whether he grows, whether he grows a lot or little, it's all upon him, and he just pays a flat fee to the landowner. So to the other guy over here, the Makabel also over here, he's responsible to pay all the meiser. Some of the Rav Kana, everything is good so far. The puppy, some say the Rav Zvi, Elohad the Tan, but we have another price that says Rabbi Yudo Imer Hamakabel Sudavois Matzik Nachri. Same case, but it was Makabel Sudavoisa from a Matzik Nachri. Now Matzik is like a extortioner. Basically, some guy who strong arms his way to ownership of the land. Comes to him, this is my land now. He says, what do you mean? It's my land. You got a problem with it? Come say it to my face. Okay, it's your land, I guess, right? Meiser low. In this case, it's the same halacha. He gives Meiser, and then he gives it 50-50. So where it says Ma'ir Matzik, why is it Matzik? I feel like Matzik Nami, even a regular Nachri. Why did you say Matzik, right? Really, there is Kila Nachri Eretz Yisrael. Lafkia Miyad Meiser. Really, the land is not obligated. If it's owned by Nachri, it's not obligated Midaraisa. In a Meiser. Makabel La Kufaychir Dami. And a Makabel is not like someone who leases land. Umas de Avaisav. What does it mean? De Avaisav? Sade Avaisav Mamish. It means his ancestral land. It means his land of his father, his grandfather, his great grandfather. And therefore we penalize the Rabbanan penalize this person. So even though the land right now is owned by an Achri, he's strong on his way to buy it for $100. Nevertheless, it's not really chayiv for Meiser. Nevertheless, we penalize the guy, this Kabbalah, to go ahead and pay for it. And since it's chaviv to him, so therefore, he'll go ahead and he'll still work the land, even though he has to go ahead and pay for Meiser all of it, as opposed to finding another land owned by Nachri that he would not have to go ahead and pay Meiser. But a regular person, low. The D-Day might have a consider about why they're penalize him. In order that basically he should go ahead and say, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm paying so much in Meiser and paying off this guy. I should go ahead and buy back the land, and therefore, by since the Rabban penalize him, this way he'll go back and buy the land. And because of this, yes, it's a good thing that he taught us.
He was only a sharecropper, and the Nuffrey still, quote unquote, owned it. Then
He was
no
putter.
longer putter.
Well, Midaraisa, he was putter. Midaraisa, he was putter. But Midarabanan, we says he has to give the Meiser for him, and because that's annoying, right? It's like a penalty. He'll try and force his way to buy the land, and he's going to do it because it's his ancestral land. He won't just walk away from it. So Itmar, if I go ahead and I go into Avrami's yard without any permission, right? We go ahead and we assess it. And I have the lower handle. What's going on here? Meaning like this. We say that, so there's two ways to assess it. I go ahead and I spend $100 and then to go ahead and cultivate this land. I'm growing cucumbers now, right? Or let's say you assess the land. How much improvement did I do? I improved it by $175. So Yoda I have the lower hand, right? I say, oh, I improved $175. Rami says, show me your receipts, $100 receipts. Here's $100. Thank you, and that's it. All right, so that's the case because I didn't come with reshus. That was the case of Rav. No, we evaluate how much somebody would go ahead and offer to pay someone to do that work, how much to grow a patch of cucumbers, and to pay $175 to go ahead and approve it. It's a fair market deal, and therefore I should get $175. That's according to Shmuel. So Shmuel says I have a good position, and Rav says I have the lower hand. And I'm Rav Papa. However, it's not a machlokes. Kamasoda hasur lito, kamasoda sheino sur lito. One is a field that is made for planting. If it's made for planting, you would have probably got a contractor to go ahead and pay $175 to it. So therefore, pay me $175. And the other case is it's not normally used for planting. So therefore, yes, you did improve my field, but now it's annoying because it wasn't supposed to be there. It's usually not in the front yard, it's in the backyard. And therefore, here's the money for your expenses. And for the Rav, that which Rav says, that which Rav said, he didn't say beferish that the guy has the lower hand, but rather we inferred it from a case. Why was the case? Told us to come into Rav. One time there was a mice that came before Rav. If Rami came before Rav, if Rami had the claim, someone's in my land planting, I didn't get permission. Samarlei, Zeal Shumle says, Rav, let's go ahead and evaluate it. Let's go ahead and evaluate how much you have to pay. Samarlei, Loi Beina, but I don't want it at all. In other words, take your cucumbers and get out of here. I don't want it. I don't want to pay for anything. Okay, so you know what? At least let's see what it is. He improved it $100, or his expense were $100. He improved it $175. We'll only give him the $100. So lo, but I do not want him there. Safe in the end, however, in the end, he saw that if Rami, was guarding it, he put up a fence around it. In other words, he was making sure that no one stiffed the cucumbers. He was making the best out of the situation. So says Rav, look, now I see that you did. You are, by the fact that you're watching it, you now have approved, you're pleased with the fact that he went ahead and planted by you. And therefore, go ahead and assess it. And therefore, the other guy has the upper hand. Since you're happy with it, therefore, you got to go ahead and pay him the $175.
You get all the benefits.
Right. But in that case, since he was guarding it, it looks like he was pleased with it and like he would have, hired someone to do it anyway. So Itamar, a person goes as someone's friend, his ruins, not really being used for anything else. So then I go ahead and I build something without his permission, his ruins, and then ultimately it's you know what? So the guys that built it says, okay, that's pretty cool. I don't know why he did it, but all right. Then the guy says, you know what? I want to go ahead and take my stones and my wood back. So Rav Nachman says he's allowed to go ahead and take it back. He didn't build permission, so go ahead and take it without permission. Rav Sheshamar ain't Shemin. Once you build it there, too bad it's attached to the ground, leave it there. So Beis Shammai says we listen to him just like Rav Nachman. So later Rav Nachman Adama Beis Shammai. Rav Nachman holds like Beis Shammai, so it's like a kasha and Rav Nachman. You want to be with Beis Hillel, not Beis Shammai. So where says no, who Domer Kiyai Tana? No, there's actually another Tana that explains this machlokes. It's not a clear cut like Rav Shmuel says machlokes. Shaymin or ain't Shaymin to Beis Hillel. Rather, it's like this. The title in the right says Shaymin loy divi Reb Shimon Elazar. Reb Shimon Elazar, he himself holds. In other words, not Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. Reb Shimon Elazar, he holds that we do allow the person to go ahead and take back his wood, and therefore Reb Nachman say just like him. Reb Shimon Elazar says no, it's not. It's not everyone says Shaymin lo. Rather, it's machlokes Beis Shammai Shaymin lo. Beis Hillel ain't Shaymin lo. Beis Shammai says Shaymin lo. Beis Hillel says ain't Shaymin lo. So my happy also what's Maskan? Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yochanan. Turn the page. The bias. So if it's a house, then Shemin Lo, then we're allowed to him to go ahead and remove it because okay, big deal, it's on the ground. However, beside it's the field, ain't Shemin Lo. We do not allow him to go ahead and dig up the ground and take all the stuff he took out. Let's say it's a cucumber patch or whatever it was. So beside my time, but what's the reason why we don't let him? Because if Yishuv it's like unsettling, destroying the land of Israel. It's the reverse of selling it. And he could have some different version, Mishum Kechosh B'Darom, because of the weakening of the ground. So my benayu what's enough. Come in, seek a benayu chutzlars. If it's chutzlars, there's no issue as well, but it still is damaging of the ground. Fine. Next Mishnah. Hamaskir one who goes ahead and he rents a house from his friend. So the landlord cannot go ahead and kick him out during the winter, which is which is minachag from Sukkot until Pesach, right? We'll call it Sukkot from Pesach. Those 2 times you can't go ahead and remove them. We'll soon have a slightly different understanding of this mission. However, it was during the summer, then Shleishim Yom, then you just tell the guy 30 days, you're out of here. I messed that up. All right. The Krachim in large cities. When it comes to large cities where housing is limited because there's so many people there, so therefore we give him 12 months to go ahead and give him a heads up in order to go ahead and be able to find other lodging. Therefore, you got to give him. Therefore, he needs 12 months by kicking him out. And when it comes to stores, whether it's cities or even larger cities, always 12 months because those people sell on credit. And if they don't have 12 months, what they know, then they extend credit. They won't be able to collect it or get their money back. However, the businesses, right, store shops of bakeries or dyers, right, those are shloshim. Those people have extended credits, right? It's like those. For like certain businesses always have like long extended credits. I don't know, like mattresses. Like you don't have to make your first payment until like 2028, right, or whatever it is. So I guess that business was the bakeries and the dyers. They used to extend very long periods of credit. Fine, let's understand this Mishnah. What's going on in this Mishnah? Why during the winter can you not go ahead and kick the guy out? So the agar inish base agar lakulu. All right, lakulu. When a person goes ahead and rents for the winter, he rents it for the entire winter. So if you rent it for the winter, so you can't kick him out January if it's supposed to go from Sukkot until Pesach. He gets the whole thing. That's why you can't kick him out. So, huh? So we're right. So right, there is no document over here written on a lease. So we're saying when he rented it for the entire winter, and therefore you can't kick him out in the middle of the lease. So one says, well, you might say chama if that's the logic of the Mishnah. Well, the summer also not the chiyager inish beisei the cool. You must say chama when he's renting for the summer. He's renting for the entire summer. So you must say chama agar for the entire summer. So can't kick him out then. So maybe it's like this. Maybe if let's say I signed a lease on January 1st, right? So I get a year, right? Let's say a year lease on January 1st. So all of a sudden it ends on January 1st, in the middle of the winter. So, but you can't kick me out because I won't be able to find another place during the winter, right? And therefore, since it's not a shechiach to find a house during the winter, so therefore you can't kick me out of the winter. So the Gemara says, let's look at the safe. It says, in large cities, they should get 12 months. But it sounds like if the 12 months ended in the middle of the winter, you can go ahead and kick him out. Right? He doesn't have a house to go ahead and remove it. Some Rabbi Yehuda. Right. Some Rabbi Yehuda. No. This whole thing we're talking about is not necessarily kick him out, rather talking about giving him notice. You got to give him notice. In other words, you can't go ahead and give notice in the middle of the winter to go ahead and move in the winter. But in the summer, you can go ahead and give notice and give 30 days in the summer, right? Assuming that, the lease doesn't, extend beyond that. So Katani, that's what Katani. This means to say, Hamaskir buys a chaver stam. If one goes ahead and rents a house to his friend stam, any yacholite seal. Let's say there's no, a date on the what's called on the lease. It just says, let's say, per month. You can't go ahead and kick them out in the winter from the Sukkot until Pesach. Unless he gives them 30 days notice before the winter. In other words, he has to give 30 days before the winter, and basically that person could, extend if he chooses. So therefore, 30 days before Sukkot, he can give a warning. I'm going to throw you out on January 1st. And when we say 30, when we say 12 months, we're only talking about giving him notice. And just like the landlord has to give the guy notice, I'm not renewing your lease. So to the renter has to go ahead and give him notice, says, I'm leaving. So it's certainly has to give him notice, whether it's 30 days or even longer. As if you would have given me notice, I would have had someone, someone here, in this place. So therefore, you didn't give me notice. You still got to make a payment because I don't know, right? We have that now. This person's like a month to month, right? You got to give 30-day notice, right? So to over here, so you got to give notice. So Rav Asi, if one day goes into the winter, i.e., let's say the first day of Sukkot, you can't go ahead and kick him out from Sukkot until Pesach. Did we say 30 days? What's this? It should be from the 15th of Elul, not the Sukkot. So where it says no, I vona shloshim yom kamar. So if he kamar im nichnas yom echad v'mos hageshamim mehani shloshim yom eni yochol lotzim in a chag v'ad Pesach. No, it means one day, not into Sukkot, rather one day into the 30 days. If it's the 16th of Elul, it's too late, right? It's like you're trying to end your contract with what's it called with the scavenger, right? With the garbage company. So like you got to give a certain period of time. If you don't give enough the 1 day or a day too early or a day too late, it's not official notice, and therefore it doesn't work. So over here, if you give 29 days notice, that does not work. You got to give at least 30 days notice. And Rav Yehuda in bold rabbis, but if he wants to go ahead and give raise the rent, he can raise the rent. That's the land can raise the rent. So Amalei Rav Nachman doesn't see this fair. And here comes this line, Ha lenakte bekufse de l'shivke leglime. Right? So what does that mean? He's holding his kubis l'shivke leglime. Look at Rashi, last skinny line of Rashi says, Harehu ko'eichso bebeitzim shaloi ad shemaniach lo talisa. Right? It's like, pardon my French, I'm just around it. It's like he got him by the balls, right? That's literally what Rashi's saying. He's oikes, right? He's bebeitzim shalom until he basically gives up his garment, right? And kaiksim shalom, is referring to, I guess, those that hang. That's what it's referring to. So that was the expression here. It says, well, basically, the landlord says, you know what? I don't like this $1,200 a month. You're going to now pay me $2,000 a month. So the guy has no other choice, right? So he has to pay it because he has nowhere else to go. So you got to go ahead and pay it, right? So Rav Nachman says, well, that's not fair, right? He has him in a bad position. So it's not like the Ikea base. No, he can't go ahead and raise it. If that is the going price, 2,000, then he's allowed to go ahead and make it to the going price, even though it's 1,200 to 2,000, and just tell him this is what the rent is. But if it's above the market, then he can say, you know what, he can't force him to pay whatever he wants. It's only to pay the market. Now, smack in the middle of the page. So let's say the house falls down to the guy, house falls down, right? So he says, just like if his own house fell down, he would find other places to live. So too, we can tell the tenant, yeah, I'm sorry, it sucks, the house fell, I gotta build a new one. But Lamaisa with you gotta, get out of here. Because the same way I would have, and therefore the guy can't have claims on the owner. Zavne or Yavi Matana. Let's say he sold it or he yarshed to somebody or he gave it as a gift, and therefore the guy has a lease. You are not any different than, he'll say to the new owner, he'll say, you're not any different than the previous owner. Just like the previous owner had a lease and had responsibilities towards it. So too, just because you bought it, doesn't mean I got to leave. I got 6 more months on my lease. You can't kick me out because I have a lease, and therefore you only have your strength is from the strength that which purchased from the seller. Now, Kolo let's say this guy's his son and daughter-in-law, right? He marries off his son, and now he gets to go ahead and give him a house, right? So in this case, so Chayzira. So now can he go ahead and kick him out and says, hey, I need this apartment for my son and daughter-in-law. So Chayzira, if he was able to go ahead and warn him, no, this was time, then he should inform him, and therefore. And if he didn't inform him in time, then then he goes like the standard, informing. However, but let's say it was an emergency situation, and whatever reason the son had to get married. Just like my son would have removed me because I had to provide housing for him, so too he's now removing you, and you got to go ahead and find yourself a new place. How Gavra 4 Arba Dechamra. There was a person, he had an entire ship full, or shipment, or boat full of wine, and lo yishkach duchte luste. He couldn't find like a nice what's sort of a nice storage area to go ahead and and to store it. So he's looking for a place to store it, right? So Amar Le Loho Isa, he found a woman who sells, has commercial properties. So he said, "Lo Isa Isaka Dufta Lug, right? Yeah, you got any space for me to rent? I see, you're a big landlord." So Amar Le, she said, "Lo." She said, "No." So what does this guy do? He's a smart businessman. Also, he went ahead and he sweet talked her, and all of a sudden, Keisha, he got engaged. Mazel tov. So, my cousin, she's this old, angry lady, but she fell in love with this guy, right? It happens to be the guy 10 minutes ago who wanted to lease land from her, or right, lease space. So Yavale Duchte Leluye. She said, "Oh, great, cousin. Oh, you want a place? Sure, anything for my sweetie poo. Go ahead and use storage unit locker number 132. That's put all your wine there." So what did the guy do? So he put the wine there. Also the base went to his house. Kasale Gita. Shadirla, right? He wrote a get, sent it to her. Okay, we're divorced. That was fun. I just needed to get it. So Azla Ihi, right? He's a good businessman, though, right? So Azla Ihi, she went and she called me night. She went obey She went ahead and she hired some schleppers. Go ahead, do me a favor. Enough of this eviction rules. I don't care about the city of Chicago. I don't care about the basement. Take this wine, throw it on the road, get it out of here. So I'm gonna have to break the Yeshua. Kasher also came. Says, is it pasuk here or not? So he says, I think it's yeah. So it says, just like the same way that he dealt with you, basically that you can return that to him on his head. In other words, he tried to go ahead and have the last laugh on you by getting engaged and therefore getting his way to a lease. So you can have the last laugh by basically throwing yourself out. And right? And we're not only talking about she has the right to do this, even if it's, let's say, he was storing in a land that normally doesn't get rented out. Even if it was a storehouse that was used for normally to storing things, she could say it on the Kuli Alma, and agree. Most people I would have minded to go ahead and lease it. However, but you, I do not want to deal with you. Like you're like a lion ready to pounce. And therefore, I choose not to rent to you. And finally, it says, we said that the stores of bakeries or dye shops, those people, they have given 3 years notice, because they're what's it called? When they extend their credit, it takes a long time. Fine. Next mission. Mission says, a person goes ahead and he rents out a house. Right, so the landlord is in charge, making sure there's a good door and there's a deadbolt that can be used. And also a lock that can be used from the outside when you leave. So you need a deadbolt from the inside, a lock from the outside, and a door. And anything that is done by a craftsman, so therefore that's responsibility of the landlord. But something that's not really a maisuman, is like a craftsman. So then the renter is in charge. And hazeva shabalabais, right? The manure, the dung, the animals that say in the chutzner belongs to the balabais. We'll soon explain what that case is referring to.
Take out his own garbage.
Well, we'll see. Well, this is like the good garbage. In other words, this is the stuff that can be used for fertilizer.
Oh.
So it's actually, you want this. So we're saying, but the zeva belongs to the balabais. The landlord gets it, not the renter. We'll soon see. Yeah. And they seicher but the seicher, he's allowed to go ahead and use also for, I guess, maybe fertilizing purposes, also the soot or the stuff that comes from the oven and the stove. So Tanya Rabbanan, so one goes ahead and rents out a house to his friend, to his fellow man. So the landlord is responsible to go ahead and provide a strong door, to have windows that open, to a strong roof, to strengthen the roof, and also to have also a strong beam. The plumbing, yeah, would be nice. The seicher is kai v'lasus loy sulam, and the renter he's in charge to go ahead for a ladder. I was so happy till now. I wasn't thinking about it. Now you're happy. All right, so he said to make him a ladder, lasus lemaka, or to go ahead and make a maka, like a fence on top of us, is a marzev, or like a gutter system, or like or to help pitch the roof. So by mine mev sheishes mezuzah almi. So whose responsibility is mezuzah? Of course, as mezuzah, I hamar rav misharshim mezuzah chaves hadargi. Right, that's the obligation on the person who dwells there. So it should be the tenant. So ela makom mezuzah almi. Rather, the place of the mezuzah, whose responsibility is that? In other words, that let's say there's a stone wall, right, and therefore you got to go ahead and make a place in the stone or something for them to be able to hang the mezuzah, to hang the cloth.
So don't be said to be Jewish owner. Yeah, he's responsible. He's responsible. You don't take your own mezuzah.
So we'll see.
You're making.
So this is a new one. So let's say we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that case. So Almi, so who's that? So that means a mokum is Almi. So Amar Lu Rav Sheshes. Then he saw a dover sheet ma'asu uman. Suddenly it's not a craftsman or so. Then the renter is responsible. Hi Nami, and this is also a place to place the mezuzah. Lab ma'asuma. This is not something that needs to be done by a craftsman. Who after who be gupsa dekanya. Right? You can go ahead and use like a reed. Go ahead and put it in a reed and have a little space there, so that can be done by a regular person. You don't need an Avrami to do it. Even Yoel can follow a YouTube DIY video, right? Yeah, a DIY video and take up, take up your own place. Yeah, obviously, right. The Gemara gives much more credit to this. Yeah. So Tanra about Hamas one who goes ahead and rents a friend, rents out to another person. The renter mezuzah. Say, Alice, what you were talking about. When you say, "Lo yitlenem biyadu," you should not go ahead and take it take it in hand. But you say, you should not take it and leave. However, minachri, but let's say it's from nachri. Let's say a landlord is a nachri. Then law, then you go ahead and take it biyadu v'yaitzi, and then take it out. U'maisa biyacha shenatla biyadu. It was the maisa the person he took it with him. V'yatza v'cover ishto u'shnei barav. Right, he took it, and subsequently his wife and two of his sons died. Right. Right. So they have the shmira, right? So it seems like to reverse the shmira. So the Gemara says, was this the case with we just talked about a nachri, and you said nachri, I thought you're allowed to take it. And why did his wife and kids die? So my store. So on Sheish is going the ratio. They're going in a case where it was a Jewish owned house. It's a Jewish owned house, and he's renting it, then he took the mezuzahs with him. So then that was where he was punished. Now, Hazevel shel balabayis. So Mayas, can we talk about if we're talking about, understand, let's say he rents out also the yard to the seicher, and the oxen, right, that go ahead and leave the manure there belong to him. Why do they belong to Balabayis? I understand. So what are you saying? So he didn't rent out the yard, and it's the landlord's animals. So that's obvious; it belongs to the landlord. We're talking about he did not go ahead and rent out the chatzir, and the oxen come from outside. Right? They're just ownerless oxen, and then they go there. They go to the bathroom there. So Kamabay, so that's what we're referring to. No, so this case, since the chutzner belonged to the Balabayis, so therefore there's his, even though the oxen were hefker. The other guy, the renter cannot go ahead and take it. And the silent that Rabbi Yisrael is a sport of Yisrael Chanin, Dam Rabbi Yisrael Chanina, Chatzer Sha'adam Kaina Lo Shaloi Midaito. Right, a person's chutzner can go ahead and can acquire something for him without even his knowledge. So Meisve, I was kashan that imamar kol mitzia shavay l'soichayim tikneli chatziri la'amar klum. A person says any lost objects in my yard today, my yard is going to go ahead and acquire it. La'amar klum. He's not said anything. V'mis, I understand if it's tago true that a person's could be chatzir, could be kaina shalamidaito. V'mis, the hadar of the amar of Yisrael Chinin chatzir shalom kaina lo shalamidaito. If it is indeed the case, that what Rabbi Yisrael says. Rabbi Chanina said that Chazesh Adam Kanel Shlemi Daito. Amaylo Amar Klum. Why is it like he said nothing? It says the Hachamaskina B'Chatzer Sheina Mishtemer. We're talking about a Chatzer that's not guarded, no fences. It's not guarded. It's not secure. Only a secured yard can go ahead and acquire without his knowledge. But something which is not secured, that cannot. So the says Ihaki and Beseva took the Seva Yatzu Lo Shem Mitzia Beir Dvar Kayam. I understand. So if it went out there, this was the case. That people heard about it, then his words do work. Where it says right? So the Gemara says, I understand. So what does it make a difference whether or not his words went, right? It shouldn't make a difference when people heard his announcement that all lost findings will be mine. It should make a difference. Is the property secure? Then he acquires it. If it's not secure, he doesn't acquire it. So the Gemara says, no. So it says, no, Kavan, the Yatzalai Shem. Since the word goes out that says any Metzias in this my land will belong to me, so then it's like he's basically making his backyard secure now, right? Even though there's no fence here, but people aren't going to go in there because he made the announcement. So since he made the announcement, so therefore people will stay away. People are going to stay away. Therefore, that's the reason why he acquires it. I like a chatzar mishtamer. Therefore, it's now considered to be like a chatzar mishtamer. So Meisve Zevel Hayetze Mina Tanner Mina Kirayim V'Hakole Mina Aver. So Zevel that comes from the Tanner, the Kirayim, or Kole Mina Aver. So he gathers it from the Aver, right? In other words, let's say animal is going to the bathroom and he catches it midair, or his Kli catches it midair. Harehu Shalo, that belongs to the Seicher. So the rent
Is he using the Zevel as fuel?
Oh, you could use it as, for fertilizer or whatever. You can for other purposes.
You throw it in your gas tank,
Right. Or maybe he's just using it for, I don't know, pranks, some people. I don't know. Yeah.
whatever.
And if it's a barn or of a yard, it belongs to the owner, the landlord. Now, if it's taka true, there's Rabbi Yezer Chanina says that a person's chatzir can acquire things without his knowledge. So kole me'avir amai harehu shalo avir chatzeru ahu. Is that wasn't since it was in the air before it landed in the seicher's kli, shouldn't have been acquired by the owner of the yard. So Abaye says we're talking about a case of madlik. The madvi kli b'shulei para. We're talking about a case of where basically he attached the kli to the behind of the animal. Yeah, right in the streets, right?
Yeah.
So over here he did it in order to catch anything that comes out. So therefore, it was never really an aver the chatzir. And Rav Omar aver shein b'seifel lanuach lav kamunach dami, right? Something that is not destined to go ahead and fall on the ground, i.e., because it was caught there. So therefore, it's not like it's munach, it's not like it's on the ground, and therefore the chatzir would never have acquired it even in the first place. The Gemara says, was this obvious to Rava? In such a case, well, he actually asked this question. The boy Rava, right? Some person goes ahead and he throws a purse right through on one side of the yard, and then it flies out. He throws it such force, and it flies out the other side. Do we say that since it passed through the yard, that it's like it was resting in the yard, and therefore the person whose yard should acquire it, or do we say that since it passed through, that no one acquired it? So Gemara answers, over there was nothing in the way. There was nothing going to stop it. That's why there was more of a shiloh. However, the mafsi over here there was a kli in its place. So therefore, since there's a kli in its place, therefore it was destined to be stopped. Then we say so in the barn and the chatzir, those if there's any dung there, it's found it belongs to the balabais. So the word says tarti. Why in both cases just say one? So right, the barn that's in the chatzir that belongs to the balabais. And Ravashi zaysemeres hamasker chatzir stam. Right, person goes ahead and he rents a chatzir. Lo yisker refes shabbat. Right. In other words, he doesn't go ahead. It has to be something which is specified. That the barn also is something separate. It's not always included, right? So you have to include it. Two different things. So meisve, as you know, the kasha it says yonei shevech v'yonei aliyah. So let's say the doves of a dovecote, right? The yonei aliyah, and also the doves at the top. Chayeves b'shiluach. Now those are chayev and shiluach kain. Now shiluach kain has to be birds that basically are not owned, right? They're wild birds. You have to chance upon them, right? Kiyikra, right? When it occurs, right? Not something which is mezuman. We'll soon see, right? Can't leave, your pet birds and your pet birds. So it has to be something with like wild birds. So a shevech, a dovecote, right? Which are basically open areas. The birds can basically fly on their own. So it's a yonei shevech, v'yonei aliyah, chayes b'shiluach. Those are chayv b'shiluach, asurs begazim b'nei darkei shalom. And really, midiraisa, they're considered to be wild. So you can't go ahead and take it. But if I have a dovecote in my house or my property, then someone cannot go ahead and take it because of darkei shalom, not because of Geneva, Mealia, not the Raisa. And now if it's Tagachur of Yezra Chanina, the Chatzir Shodam kind of Shalami Daita, the Chatzir requires it. So Kari Kana Ki, Palmazuma, right? Is this considered to be right a chance upon it? He knows he owns it. He owns the birds. It should be Mizuma. He shouldn't be able to go ahead and do Shulach HaKedah. So Rava says, Rava, so Beitza Bietzias Rubahu Dechayla B'Shilach. Once the egg is halfway out, so then that's already now it's considered to be chayiv in what's it called? And chayiv in shiluch hakein. Therefore, it's not acquired yet, right? We're making like but it's only gets acquired by the chatzir once it gets to the ground. So therefore, it's already chayiv in shiluch hakein before it hits the ground. Therefore, that's a chayiv. Chayiv in the shiluch. And that's what we said. It's chayiv in shiluch hakein. It's only before it falls on the ground. If that's the case, why is it also because of a gezel? Where it says iman, right? It's referring to the mother. So the mother, or with nothing ruba daitela, or maybe the fact that once most of it comes out, already he has in mind to acquire it. So therefore, maybe that's why it's geneva or geneva of the eggs, even though he didn't really technically acquire it yet. The hashta, the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, also Lazakas Bebeitzim Shel Kozman She'em Revetz Aleim, Shemar Shalach to Shalach Haseim. And now that we say, right, that you can't go ahead and acquire the eggs while the mother is on it, as it says, you send away the mother. V'hadar es abundant tikach. Then only afterwards it says, take the children or take the eggs. Afilu tema denafa le lechatzer. Even if they fell in the yard, so kolhecha dihu matzi zachile, right? Chatzer zachile. Right, whenever he is able to go ahead and acquire that, either the mother's not there, so then the chatzir acquires it. Then he will not be able to go ahead and acquire. So if that's the case, so I understand why is it because of darkei shalom? If he already sent away the mother, so then now you're able to go ahead and acquire it, and therefore my chatzir requires it. So why can you go ahead and take the eggs? Right? That should be gezel because the chatzir should acquire it, right? If you didn't send it yet, so you can't acquire it because the mother bird is still on it. The right answer is because we're talking about a katan, right, who is not chayiv of shiluch, so therefore he's able to actually to go ahead and take it while the mother is still on it. The one says katan bar derech shalom. So I understand you can't take it because of derech shalom, right? So he's not required derech shalom. How come? The child isn't chayiv to do it, but the katan, he is the father of the katan is chayiv because of derech shalom to go ahead and return the eggs because his son should not have taken it in the first place. Fine. Next Mishnah. So Mishnah says, Naya Mishnah.
By katan is not.
Right. So
in the parsha Shluach HaKen.
Correct. Right. No, there is no isser. There's no problem of taking it while the mother's on it. So it's like an asset, right? You got to send the mother away to take it, right? It's not on. So therefore, he takes it. There's no problem, right? He's not obligated.
What are the chances of taking an egg if the mother doesn't fly away?
We did it by Ray Francis' house. Oh, your neighbor,
Yeah,
former neighbor. Yeah.
it flies away.
Yes. Then you hear it chirping. Mishnah says, Hamaskir, bottom 2 lines in the bottom on Kuf basement Aleph. So Hamaskir by the Shana. Person goes ahead and he rents a house for a year. Nisabra Shana is a leap year, right? They're not so good with the Hebrew calendar. Maybe they called it afterwards. You didn't know, right? Nisabra Shana, Nisabra L'Seichem. It goes to the renter. Why? Because I signed a lease with Avrami. I'm renting it for a year. And the year is whatever starts Aleph Tishrei, and it goes to Aleph Tishrei, and it turns out I got 2 months of Adar in there. So therefore, I rented for a year. It goes for a year, and therefore I got 13 months out of it. So therefore, Nisabel is Seicher, right? So the advantage goes to the renter. He gets a free month out of it. However, if it's Hiskelo Chodashim, if I go ahead and rent it, I'm going to rent this for 12 months, right? Nisabel Shana, then he wants it, for the 13 months or whatever it is. Nisabel the Maskir. Then it goes to the landlord. And Maisa B'tzipuri, there's a Maisa B'tzipuri, one person who rented a merchatz from his friend. B'shnei Masar Zav L'Shana Medinar Zav L'Chayda. She said over there, what did the contract say? It said 12 Zahav for a year, a dinar Zav per month. Said both. 12 for a year, first, right? Then it said one per month. Uba Ma'aseh Lifnei Shel Gamliel, Ma'aseh Lifnei Shel Gamliel, turn the page. Lifnei Rav Yosi v'amru yachleiku es chedesh ibur. Go ahead and split it. Split it. Mashma. Sounds like we don't know. Maybe they meant 12 for the year and the 13 is included, or maybe they meant one per month, and therefore, it was only for 12 months. It want to be a 13th month. You got to pay for the 13th month. So they didn't know. So paying 12 and a half.
Contract was a word.
So the Gemara says, "I myself, sir. Well, I understand you bring a case of contradiction. Which one should it be? Well, we didn't bring out this halacha. So Chasir Mechza, we actually, we're missing a part. This is how it's reading. V'im Amar Loi b'Shnei Masar Zuhu v'im L'Shana Medina Zav L'Chaydesh Yachleikum. Right, and if they said a double lashon, right, then they split it. Now the double lashon, well, ma'asenami, similar. There's a ma'asenami tzibur be'achas zachar be'achas be'chaver b'Shnei Masar Chaydesh Zuhu v'im L'Shana Medina Zav L'Chaydesh. And then it says, in the exact case happened, a person did it, but he did 12 for a year, one per month. But by my side, for the Merchas, Ben Gamliel, belief in Rabbi Yisrael, and they said, go ahead and split the 13th month. Now, I guess it probably started during, Nissan, not right. Did I say Tisha before? But Nissan probably started because that's probably the last month is the Ibor. Fine. If I was over there, what would I have done? I would have given it all to the landlord. You got to go ahead and pay up full. My kamash malon. I understand why the tov is lashon achron. Why? Because one per dinar all goes to them because that was the second lashon. And I was you telling me when a person makes a double lashon, right? I'll take. How many are you going to have? I'll have 3, 4. Right. So now he says it again. So when I say two different things, it could be that the second thing is really the more important thing. I'm overriding the first thing. So Tavas Lashon Acharon is the second Lashon is more important. So he says 12 for a year, 1 a month. Right. So in other words, he's changing it. He's not saying 12 for the year because I know there might be a leap year. So that's why I said 1 per month. I changed it. So that's what Rav is saying. Like Kulu Lamaska, why Mag Mashalon, Tavas Lashon Achron. Hamarav Chadazino, we actually learn for another time. Dama Rafuda, Amibe Rav, Asisa Mea Mana. So he says Mea Mai, right? So he says 100 Mai, Mea Mai. All right, so he says over there, the case of where he says he's gonna buy it for Istra Mea Mai. Nice line. I'm gonna Zina Dama Rav Yuda, Amibe Rav, right? Astira Mea Mai. So he says, right? An Easter, right? In 100 miles. So Mea Mai Easter. So he said, if he said Easter Mea Mai, then it's 100 miles. And if it's 100 miles and Easter, then it's Easter. So it goes after the second lashon. So when I says email, I said, if it's we want to learn that over there, have me thought Farish. Maybe I would have thought, what is an Isra? That's Me'amai, right? So therefore, maybe I was just explaining it. So Kamafarish, Kamash Malan, that it's not an explanation. Rather, if the two differ, then you go after the second one. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, right? We're talking about it comes in the middle of the month. We're in the middle of the month. Now, normally the person doesn't go ahead and pay, right, until the end. If he comes at the beginning of the month and says, pay up, right, then it all goes to the landlord. If it comes at the end of the month, then we assume that it was already paid for, so therefore it goes to the seicher, right? In other words, but if it comes in the middle, now what is it, right? So therefore, Shmuel says that if you call at the beginning of the month, hey, you got to go ahead and pay, he has to pay. If it's the end of the month, it says, oh, you should have told me before, I probably would have moved out, so therefore, I'm not paying. But in the middle of the month, so therefore we split it. So Miyamar Shmuel, but why doesn't Shmuel go by the Tavas Lashon Achron? Vav Rav Ushmuel Damar Tavai. Both Rav and Shmuel says, Kor b'shleishim ani meicher lecha. So he says, I'm going to sell you a kur, right, this large amount for 30. So even the last saw that he's paying him, he can go ahead and withdraw because it was all together for an entire kur, and he didn't pay for the last month. So kur b'shleishim saw b'sela ani ma'ich. But if he says, I'm selling to you for 30, right? A seller for a saw for a seller, right? Now, as he broke it down 30 for 30. Rishon kana. Such a case, since he used a lashon acharon, therefore he acquired each one individually. So therefore he can't be chayzer after 29. Says, you know what? I don't want to go ahead and do it. The one says hasan time am I? Mishum the toughest over there because he acquired it. How can I make toughest? So to over here, we're talking about a case of where he acquired it. In other words, if I already lived in the house, so it's like I acquired it. If I didn't, so then it's like I don't have bailus. Rav Nachman Omar, karka becheskas baila kayams, right? Now, the karka is always in the chazaka of the owner, of the balabais, and therefore, it should always go to the balabais. Why kamashma, Tavas Lashon Achron, right? Kind of the Rav, isn't that what Rav is saying? Tavas Achron, that you have to go ahead and pay for the full 13th month, and that's what you mean, that the balabais is the he's the one, the machzik. The Gemara says, no, even if he switched it around, in other words, even if he switched it around and said the year second, he's still the machzik, and that overrides, unless it was specifically stated, 12 for the entire year, and that's it, right? So then it's 12 for the entire year. But if he doesn't state that, so then he can argue that he's the machzik, and therefore he has to go ahead and pay for that. And boy, Rabbi Yanai, a question was asked from Rabbi Yanai. Seicher Omar Nasati. The renter says, I already paid my rent. I paid my rent for the year. Masker lo natalti. And the landlord said, I never got anything. Ami lo havirai. Who brings proof that it was paid or not paid? Amos. So when is this going on? It's a rookie mistake. If it's in the middle, so Tanina, right? In other words, so if it was done, so in the Ilach Hazan Tanina, we also learned, right? Ditznan, we learned in Mishnah. If the father died within 30 days of his newborn, his bechor, so bechaz does shalai nifta. The chazaka, he didn't do it. It wasn't due yet to be paid that. So therefore, the chazaka, he didn't give the kaid money. Actually, the raya shenifta, right? Until he brings a raya that he did it. Liyachar shleishim. Right, but that right, yeah, or right, the others around, right? So after 30 days, let's say the guy has his 40 days and it says we have no proof. So because the Shanim does a chazaka that he did go ahead and be paida, and therefore bring a proof that he did not go ahead and do it. So until you bring proof that he did not go ahead and do it. So it should be over here that if when is the rent due? If the rent was already due, it's assumed it's paid, unless you bring proof that it was not paid. And if the rent wasn't due yet, so then you got to bring proof that you paid, because we don't assume that you paid before it was due. The one says, we're talking about the day of where the rent is due. So do people go ahead and pay the day is due, alone or not? So I think a little more. So he says,
Depends.
yeah. So it's a couple more lines. So he says, so what we learned, right? Sachir bismano, right? Sachir goes ahead and bismano nishba v'naitel, right? So he says, if a sachir, he's working bismano, in other words, when it's on time, so then he makes a shmua and then goes ahead and takes it. So sachir do Ramaz Rabbana shua less. Only the sachir worker that goes ahead and makes a shmua and then gets paid. Mishum, the balabai is because normally the owner is busy with other things running his business. Over here, but over here we can say that the tenant is believed, and therefore he can go ahead and shmua that he already paid, and therefore he could swear that he already paid, and therefore he's pater from paying. All right, we'll stop here. Have a wonderful day.